Pasuk Yud Aleph. Yosim Olav Sorei Misim Lamana Noso. He placed upon them taskmasters, Lamana Nosam, Anosam Sivlosam, to afflict them in their suffering. Even Ori Miskros Lafaras Pisim Vis Ramses. He built fortified cities, storage cities. Pisim Ramses. Both of these cities did not have the capacity to be fortified, and they forced them to build them. That was the tax. Rashi, Olav Alaom, Misim, Loshem Mas, tax. Sorim Shegovim Imamas, Ma'amas, and what was the tax? Sheivnu Ori Miskanos Lefaro, to build these fortified cities for Paro. Lamanoso B'sivlosam Shel Mitzrayim. What does he mean? To afflict them B'sivlosam of Mitzrayim. Not sure. No, I'm not sure. I'll call, what's his name? Sisi, he'll give you a tour. Okay. Ma'anosim Sivlosam Shel Mitzrayim. How does he explain that? Rashi, what does he say over there? To the Jews, it's referring to the Egyptians. Therefore what? Lama'anoso, to afflict, because it's singular. Lama'anoso B'sivlosam, with the Egyptians bringing that suffering upon them. That's what he's learned, because one's singular. Anoso B'sivlosam. Yeah. Yeah, Sivlosam. I mean, normally they would have had to do it. You know, it's interesting. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh writes at the beginning of B'Shalach, he sent out the rabble, right, with us. It says, Vahi B'Shalach Paro Sa'om, and then afterwards goes to Yisrael. So he explains over the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Paro always suspected, or had a very strong suspicion, that the Jews weren't coming back. So what did he do? So he sent out the rabble, hundreds of thousands of Egyptians with us, and he said to them, look, if they don't come back, you assume their workload. So as a result of this, the Egyptians who go with them are going to guarantee not going to let them go beyond that point. So what happened at the end? Not only did the Jews not come back, these people said, are we insane? We're not going back. We go back, what do we become? We become slaves? So not only did Paro lose the Jews, he even lost hundreds of thousands of Egyptians that he sent with us. It's the same idea. Normally they would have had to do this. The Egyptians themselves. They afflicted us with something they would have had to suffer, with their burdens. We had to assume their burdens. Ori Miskanos. Rashi, the Targum says, Beis Otzara, storage cities. V'chen lech bo el hasochen hazeh gizbar amun al hotzoros. Es pismes Ramses lo yeruyos betchilo lekach v'osum chazokos. They made him strong, ubetzuros, fortified lotzer, for storage. This famous, there's a Maral. Maral explains, the Medrash says that Pisim and Ramses, they were cities that they had to be fortified. Factions did they ever succeed in building them? So he explains, based on the Midrash, it says in the Midrash, there's an argument in the Midrash, what happened when the city was completed? Did they just crumple? The walls just shattered and just fell? Or the walls, they just sank into the ground? It's an argument, what happened. But factually, at the end of the day, there was no Pisim, there's no Ramses in terms of fortified cities. He says, what did Paro want to prove? That we should build Pisim Ramses. He says, how do you define a person? By his capability. Okay? So a person whose essence is physical. That's his essence. So what is that? So therefore, he could be defined. What is the definition of who you are? What you're able to accomplish. Klal Yisrael, their essence has nothing with physicality. It's spirituality. So to say that you want to define us through our physical accomplishments, that doesn't define us. To prove it, that even after when we completed it, it would crumple. It would not stay. So he goes to explain why, according to one, it crumpled, the other one, it sunk. That's not the morale. But that was the issue over here. How do you see it? Because it says the more they worked us, the more we increased in number. So what is that indication? Normally, as a human being, based on one's physicality, that determines to what degree a person is able to be prolific. A person is malnourished and work to the maximum, he's not able to be productive. But here, the more they wore them now physically, the more they produced. So what does that say? So what's the essence? That their reproduction has nothing to do with the physicality. So the more they're what they are, the more they produce. They're unlimited. That's the morale. The kashiyanoso, and this is exactly what the kashiyanoso king yirbev chenifrots. And as they afflicted them, they increased and they thrived. The Yakutzim B'nai Yisrael, and they were disgusted with the B'nai Yisrael, because here they're trying to stamp us out to get rid of us, and the more they afflict us to bring that about, it works to the contrary. That's the more we increase in number. Because what did they say? They said pen yirbe. We have to enslave them to stop the increase in number. And so what do we? So therefore we're going to enslave them. So but the whole thing backfired, because not only did it not stop it, it increased it. So therefore vayakutsu, they're beside themselves. They're disgusted. They don't know what to do with themselves. Now it's interesting. The Ramban points out, I mean, ultimately, right? Why don't you just kill them? Working them, they're alive. They could reproduce. Have genocide. Look, Hitler, Yimach Shemo. Why couldn't they do that? Right? So he explains that initially when Paro instituted this was a secret. I mean, any decent nation, these people, they never hurt. There was never even a concern or basis to be concerned that they can take over the country. Right? This is all anti-Semitic. This came from Bilam. Bilam is the one who actually, because the Medrash tells us initially when Bilam suggested it, Paro rejected it. He said, I'm not doing it. You know what they did with him? He was dethroned. They said, you don't want to do it? You're out. You're not king anymore. It says for 3 months, he was put out of commission. He was dethroned. He did not function as a king. Then afterwards, 3 months, he realized, what do I have to gain? He says, whatever you want to do, I'm in with you. And he got back, and that's when they instituted this policy, which was presented by Bilam. Because again, I mean, here you have people who contribute to the country. Well, what are you destroying them? So he says no. So what was the plan? The plan was because the masses wouldn't accept it initially. Everybody benefits from a country. You contribute. They said, the Jews, they're here. There's nothing wrong with they should contribute. They should contribute to the building of the country. Everybody pays their taxes. We're going to tax the Jews. They're going to contribute in this manner. So they gave them quotas, but the quotas they gave them were impossible quotas. So in a certain subtle way, this is the way they would actually limit them or even destroy them. But to have mass slaughter immediately, the people would have risen up and they wouldn't have accepted it. This is Ramban. So therefore it was gradual. They worked it out. Once people saw they were slaves, they're chattels, they're no longer human beings, they're this. So you could go from one level to another level. That's how we ensnared them. That's how we ensnared us. But he's talking in terms of the Egyptians. Yesterday, I was reading in the Gurus Hashem, we say Shevet Levi was the only tribe which was not in the bondage, in the physical bondage. So one pshat he says, which I always understood, but it's not a chazal, that we find that Paro, at the time of the famine, he instituted that the priest class will not be taxed by the country, right, by the government, and the land of the priests belongs to the priests. They will not take the land, and they will not tax them. No. Paro. You look it up. No, I understand that. But it was Paro. Paro made that suggestion. So when it said the priest class, it wasn't limited to the Egyptians. So Levi was the priest class of Klal Yisrael. So that's why you find Moshe and Aaron had free movement continuously. He says, "L'chu lachem sivlosechem," go back, do your chores. What are you bothering the people, right? But then he says another pshat. He says, and it's similar to what we were saying here, that anything of kedusha, right? Levi is God's domain. What is Egypt? Egypt, according to based on Pasuk Yechezkel, is what? The Chamorim. It's Chomer. Chomer cannot dominate spiritual. It's a different realm. A person was relevant to the physical. Physical could dominate physical. But something which identifies totally as spiritual cannot be dominated by the physical. So because Levi represents Kedusha, which is God's realm, that's his domain, that's the reason why Levi couldn't be enslaved for that reason. I mean, could a person dictate to a malach? Could you, as powerful as you are, to another dimension of being a malach? You can't. The chomer, the physical, cannot dominate the spiritual. So that, in essence, that was a reflection of what Levi was. Since Levi was that, therefore it wasn't possible. Just let's do Rashi over here. Ken yirbe v'chen yifro ken yirbe b'joshu ruach hakodesh omeres atem omrim pen yirbe. You say they may increase. Ani omer ken yirbe. They will increase. V'yikutzu kotzu b'chayeyim shem dershu kekotzu b'neim. They're like thorns in their eyes. Okay, let's see the